Alright guys, so in this video we're going to be going over kettlebell workouts and dynamic workouts where we're going and we're moving around a lot. How useful these are and if people should be using them more in their workouts instead of only using them in Pilates, and um, if they're really useful or if they're a waste of time for people who are taking more serious approach to building their physique, or they're only for beginners and people who don't really know what they're doing. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So we're talking about these kettlebell workouts. A lot of people really don't appreciate the use of them and don't appreciate how they can benefit your body. Not either if you're a bodybuilder or if you're just a beginner working out, they have solid effects on all people. I'm not going to lie to you and say that now you should just start swinging kettlebells. And you're going to start, if you do swing kettlebells, you're going to start looking like Chris Bumstead. It's not going to happen. Kettlebell swings and these types of movement-based workouts that you see a lot of people also, where they hold like these bars and they twist them back. And this exercise where you do this rotational movements where you train to build a rotational strength. They're very important. They help minimize injury, help promote muscle growth across the obliques, the serratus anterior. If you guys saw my video that I did previous to this one on Toji, where we break down all the muscle groups, I recommend you guys go watch that, so it'll give you a good idea of how different muscle groups work on the front side of the human body and how you can train them to make them look better. And it also explains to you why these types of movements are very important. A lot of people want to see abs and all these other types of like muscles organized here in your stomach area, the obliques and the other stuff, the serratus anteriors. You need to have, something happened. You need to have motion, and to train especially the obliques. There's no way you're going to really get solid obliques by doing curls or doing a regular workout routine. You need to include these sorts of dynamic movements back and forth, which you can really get from kettlebell swings. And I've seen people who juggle these kettlebells and going like crazy, juggling all sorts of weights, and it looks awesome. And they get huge obliques. And the reason they get obliques much bigger than regular people do is because that's what you need to do to train to get your obliques. And some people think that they're not very aesthetic, and that they're going to get big waist by training obliques. But it's really hard to get big waist by training obliques. Like it's almost like saying you're too scared to work out because you're afraid you're going to look like Ronnie Coleman. You're not going to look like Ronnie Coleman if you work out regularly. It's just not going to happen. No, there's no person without steroids who will ever look like Ronnie Coleman. It's too far out of your reach to train and get obliques that it'll really affect your waist and make you look like unaesthetic. It's just not gonna happen. If anything, it'll make you look more aesthetic because you got all these cuts across your abs, and the added thickness is just so tiny that it's minimal. It's not gonna make your waist look bigger, and it's gonna really add to your overall physique and make you look more imposing. Especially if you're a guy, it makes more sense to train them. And if you're a girl, or if you're also just not really interested anyways and still think it's a good idea, remember, it'll help reduce your risk of injury, and it'll also help with any sorts of movements for sports. A lot of sports, they rely on kettlebell swings, on these types of dynamic movements, because they're very functional. These are functional movements. When have you had to lift something up where you have to like pull it real quick? When you have to, in a sport, imagine you're playing basketball, you're moving around back and forth, you're doing all of these contortions, and you're moving your body, and it's just like, and you're twisting a lot. And all these sorts of twisting movements are benefited through these kettlebell swings and these kettlebell workouts that people don't really rely on. And it has another type of shearing tension also to your, not just your muscles, but your bones and your tendons. Your tendons and your bones are also often neglected in regular weighted lifting. They are typically stronger than if you didn't lift, and it does help to lift, but they're really pushed further than normal when they're added. They have this added sort of tension from different directions that they're not used to. So they're pushed in a different way. It causes your body to adapt to a new form of stimulus that it hasn't really felt before. And that's why you see, you wouldn't believe it, but there's been studies done where, maybe you do believe it, I don't know. But people have seen these studies done on basketball players and soccer players, and typically basketball players and soccer players have denser bone structures than marathon runners. And this, you might be like, that doesn't make any sense. Marathon runners, they're always hitting the floor with their feet. They're usually using cushion shoes, and they're not turning. The pressure's always the same type of pressure straight on, and they have lower density compared to these other types of athletes. They have higher density than a regular person sits around for sure, but not as much as these athletes like soccer players and basketball players, because they're not doing these sorts of twisting movements, rotational movements that are very, very important to the development of a full physique, full everything. Humans need that type of movement. They need to be able to twist around, move around, be able to swing. It's natural. It's natural for humans to be able to have those. You know, imagine we come from monkeys, swinging from tree to tree. Kettlebells kind of mimic these sorts of movements where we're rotating our bodies and putting it in different types of tension, so it really thickens up our bone structure, our tendons, which then, when we are training with heavy weights, it reduces majorly our chance of injury, because really a lot of our injury comes from pulling a muscle, and you really pull a muscle when the tendon gets damaged, and or not pulling a muscle, or like when you hear people have hamstring issues, the tendon gets off the bone, or a lot of sports players, whenever they have an ACL injury, the tendons are all messed up. When you break a bone, you're not going to break a bone if your bones are already super duper dense, thanks to this type of training. So these are all different sorts of benefits that you get from kettlebell training, and why I recommend kettlebell training, adding it to your routine, even if it's just 10 minutes of kettlebell swings, rotational movements. It really helps, especially for longevity, and if you really want to keep on training to your later ages, when you're like in your 60s, 50s, 40s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s, you need to have these sorts of movements where you know you're not going to really be risking any sort of injury, but you're still putting on a good amount of solid tension in your bones and your tendons. Joe Rogan is a good example of this. He does a lot of kettlebell workouts, and if you've seen him, he's in pretty good shape for his age. He has kind of like this, I don't know how to explain it, fat-looking muscular body, but he's muscular. He kind of looks like he has these blocky abs, but that comes from training. He looks fit and jacked at his age because of this type of training where he's applying all these sorts of rotational strength building workouts that most people ignore. That's why he still has abs at his age, and you'll see it in a real fit older guy. They're usually doing a lot of these sorts of movements where they're putting tension in unique ways on their bodies. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. That's the end of this video. It's a little shorter than a normal video, but there's only so much I can talk about kettlebells, so I can't make this video too long. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if there's anything new you want to see, if you're interested in any specific topics, and I'll be sure to make videos on them in the future. So I'll catch you guys next one. Bye-bye.